It's like, no big deal. Like, sucking dick and cock. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. Time and place. And you did it at my birthday dinner.
I was blind. I was so blind. And I don't want any part of it anymore. None. None.
Also, by the way, these are my words. I did write this, and this is from my heart.
Come on, if you know the words, let's go.
What do I think of her?
Yes.
I don't think of her.
Glass of red wine and a swisher. I think you get the picture.
Here I go.
Read about that in the New York fucking Post.
We're about to suck some dick and cock of the mind.
Oh.
On my own birthday of the mind. In my head, I'm a Scorpio. In my heart, I'm a Pisces.
Absolutely. Sure, why not? Sucking the psychological dick and cock of...
The psychological dick and cock ball cock torture.
It is in the room,
recording this
metaphorically,
episode.
spiritually, and emotionally.
Is the sucking dick and cock ball torture in the room with us right now? On your birthday of all days. Hi guys, welcome to Eating for Free, the podcast recording live from the absolute edge of the internet. My name is Tati Westbrook, local gossip.
And my name is Free Radicals, local artist, and Matthew Lawson.
I thought you were going to go with James Charles, you bitch.
I would never degrade myself.
Why don't
like
you
that.
ever follow along with the bit? You just don't want to see women succeed.
Well,
You
you're
spend it
Tati,
in-
and I'm the Free Radicals entering and exiting your body through the oxalates and other bizarre foods.
You're what you are what's sending the 5G signals into a frenzy as they enter me.
Yeah, the Free Radicals capture the 5G and hold it and crystallize in the body, and then get released in like a spore kind of like mechanism.
Thankfully, I have shielded myself with a raw steak dress that acts like the strips that you can put around your credit card so people can't swipe them with magnets.
Absolutely, the
you know?
Faraday cage,
Yeah.
if you will, of the body, like with the raw meat.
The
component.
Faraday cage of the mind is this podcast, which my name is Joan Summers. Hello, everybody. We are going to be doing some more Tati Westbrook riffraff, hippity hoppity, theorizing, theologizing, philosophizing.
The Socratic method.
The Socratic method of Plato's cave as we stare at the shapes on the wall that Tati is making with her meat sock puppets.
No, it's the blood that splatters from the butcher, and we have to interpret the signals of the splatter art.
It's like reading tea leaves, but it's
Exactly.
the blood splatter on the butcher's block. We're actually dumping out.
I hate us so
We're
much.
dumping
So
out
stupid.
Tati Westbrook's garbage can, full of like
Reading the
pop,
patterns, yeah.
full of like pop chip bags and like
In like grain-free taco shells.
moldy kale that she like found in like the third
And, like,
garage fridge
Stop at the third. And the 75 like foundation bottles that are like half full.
that are now actually also giving her oxalate poisoning.
Yes,
so
yes.
we're interpreting the like brown smudge on the floor.
Hormone blocking microplastics is the new one also. We'll get into that.
No, I've got it. This episode is like using the spray tan stains on her couches.
A Rorschach.
Yeah,
kind of
the
level.
Rorschach test of her spray tan stains. Like,
The bronzer highlighter that fell like in the middle of a tutorial. I can see a pattern, I can see a sign.
well, the actual Rorschach test
It
would be
spells out
taking,
27,
Would be
the
taking
dates.
her makeup wipes out of the garbage.
When you get a numerologist up in here. Numerologist, a symbolist.
Start counting the Chanel bags behind her. Stop. We have to stop. Okay. We're going to be talking about Tati Westbrook. If you're here today wondering who Tati Westbrook is, why we'd be talking about her, you've stumbled into the wrong episode. Go back and listen to part 1 last week. But today, if you are here again for another head smashing, another dick pounding, we have way more in store for you.
Yeah, the flattening appointment will be extensive and comprehensive. Flattening the mind's eye, the brain itself.
Tati bringing all her old makeup to those hydraulic presses on TikTok.
Okay, if she pivoted to that, she would
Swag
be
or
very
not
successful.
swag? Okay, so
I
I'm
remember-
going to start with you a blog post.
Okay, yeah.
That I'm pretty sure Tati Westbrook has read like word for word.
Wait,
Okay?
so who wrote this?
I'm not going to tell you just yet.
Okay.
Okay. This is a blog post that I found that parrots almost exactly every single Tati talking point that Tati has like described concerning her like mysterious medical symptoms. I held on to this from the notes last week because I think it is a much better filler and a great way to start this episode, where we will be diving into more about her politics and some of her older videos that we think demonstrate a repeated pattern of habitually, I guess the only way to really say it is habitually being a spokesperson for disordered eating, terrible body image practices, and fad diets.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read you this. Tell me at the end of this also who this also reminds you of. Someone also from the Eating for Free vaults.
Okay.
Could oxalate poisoning be to blame? That's the name of the blog. This page explains why oxalate poisoning is hard to spot, even though it can cause a wide variety of problems. Many of the symptoms that can be caused by excessive oxalates are listed here. Oxalate poisoning is next to impossible to diagnose. Here's why. Every reported case of oxalate poisoning is unique. The signs and symptoms are widely dissimilar from person to person. Thus, there is no recognized symptom pattern that is a telltale sign of oxalate trouble.
Oh, interesting.
Medical tests for oxalates are rarely used. When they are often performed incorrectly. And these tests can be extremely invasive, inconclusive, or both.
Interesting.
Healthcare providers don't order these tests because they aren't aware that oxalates can irritate the nerves, harm connective tissues, irritate the digestive tract, and trigger inflammation. There
Everything
are many
triggers
other
inflammation.
better known causes that can create similar symptoms, so they assume that the problem results from something else. For example, a gout diagnosis is usually based on symptoms and blood tests, not testing that can correctly identify the problematic material that is building up in the affected joints.
Oh, mama, the oxalates,
Even
they're
when
problematic.
joint fluids are examined, the tiny, sharp oxalate crystals are often so physically similar that they're easy to confuse with other crystals in tissue samples. Take uric acid crystals.
Is this like a microscope?
When tiny, sharp uric acid crystals build up in joint, painful gout flare-ups can result. When tiny, sharp oxalate crystals build up in a joint, it can be just as painful as gout and might also cause bone erosions, cysts, and even fractures. Yet treatments that sometimes alleviate gout by lowering uric acid blood levels have no effect on oxalates, which are chemically different. So just to be clear, oxalates are a almost like wizard's wand of illness.
It feels omnipresent.
A
Absolutely.
Swiss Army knife
Catch-all.
of symptoms where anything that could be affecting your gut health, your vessels and tissues, your joints, your nerves could also be oxalates. But because they're testing for the quote unquote real diseases that are affecting you, they're mistaking your they're mistaking your oxalate poisoning for gout because they have exactly the same symptoms. And oxalate crystals look exactly like any other kind of crystal that can build up in your body. So they're thinking that oxalates are uric acid crystals. Just in the same way, I'm sure if we were to go to your gut, the oxalates would be exactly similar to some bacteria you might find that might cause some other kind of issue in your health.
Absolutely giving pseudoscience.
Are you seeing the
absolutely
pattern?
Giving pseudoscience, yeah.
Okay, so also this is the best
It's also
part.
giving like why even trust or engage in this when it's so
Even
360.
full-blown okay, so then there's a couple other ones like our medical tests don't tell us much about oxalates. In severe cases, the kidney can be so full of oxalate that oxalate gets trapped there and does not show up in the urine. Oddly enough, the timing of these symptoms don't necessarily coincide with the consumption
Where are
of
the
high
studies,
oxalate
Mama?
foods. This is because symptoms may flare up when your body releases stored oxalates, which happens when you are not eating them. So now also, by the way, the food you're eating like today could have negative effect a long time after you eat it because your body's releasing
What a convenient way to
and then some people
to sell
may
somebody
seem
on
to
this.
tolerate high oxalate foods while others don't.
Everyone's different, but it also means anyone can be affected.
Now this is the 5 reasons why full-blown oxalate poisoning is not taken seriously.
This is goop, right?
Ageism.
This has to be.
Many people of the problems caused by oxalates are associated with aging and are thus dismissed as normal, inevitable, and irreversible. The damage can come on gradually and subtly, often below the threshold of symptoms and medical tests. For example, you are usually unaware that your bones are becoming weak until a simple fall results in a broken bone. Doctors rarely investigate the source of the weakness in the bone that could not withstand the force of the fall. As mentioned above, there is no standard symptom picture indicating oxalate poisoning for your weak bones. One key reason for that is that they tend to attach to inflamed, damaged, or deteriorating cells, quote, defenseless zones. Where this occurs differs in every person. When symptoms do appear, doctors rarely suspect oxalate poisoning is the cause. In fact, American doctors don't even tell patients that kidney stones are made of oxalate, much less suggesting that they learn about oxalates in foods and steer clear of the worst offenders. And would you know the worst offenders leads to a blog with no citable sources?
What?
Okay, now,
I think the kidney stone thing is true, but it's like maybe the only thing that is true about this entire piece.
We have been reading about a woman and her struggles by the name of Sally K. Norton, who is a huge proponent of the carnivore diet.
Oh, well, of course.
Basically removing oxalates from your body and from your diet rotation, eating meat and high-fat foods that... You know, basically not vegetables. She has a
vegetables
whole
contain the oxalates.
like blog post
Yeah,
about
of
like
course. She
how
has to sell you on it.
discovered that this was like the greatest thing and it's changed her life. She now
And
describes
click my
herself as
affiliate
a
link.
vitality coach and health consultant.
Oh, vitality. Okay.
Yeah. So we're not even going to go into the rest of her bio because ultimately it's not important, but you did ask me, is this goop? Because it sounds like something Goop would say,
It absolutely
correct?
does. Absolutely.
What is it that we were just reading about in Goop? We were talking about the iconic piece of writing that Stasa Edwards did for Jezebel about Goop. We cited that back in our Goop episode, which you can go back and listen to from 2018.
I think so, or 2019 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it was 2018. But yes, so there's a lot of reported stuff about like the mysterious illnesses that Goop used to promote constantly,
Like Lyme disease,
like fatigue. Remember,
Yeah.
the chronic fatigue
And your gut health.
Yeah. Like your
The
gut
free radicals.
microbiome, the free radicals. It
Brain
also
fog.
reminds me of Lyme disease.
Yeah, definitely Lyme disease.
Hashtag Bella
Absolutely.
Hadid still has Lyme disease. Like hashtag Nick Jonas still has diabetes. Like. Hashtag Yolanda Hadid, where is she?
She's on that farm, right?
God forbid.
Pennsylvania?
God willing she stays there.
The way she keeps talking about the Lyme disease, which come from ticks, but then keeps living on farms in the middle of grassland areas, is still the most incomprehensible.
I think you are trying to unpack something that is unpackable.
It really is.
You
It
are
really
opening
is.
the Pandora's box of discourse that we do not need at this
Yeah,
particular
we're already on the other
moment.
Pandora's box.
But it does sound like something Goop would say, right? Or like
Yeah.
a lot of other kind of like mystery cure-all
Yeah.
illnesses, kind of the same way that free radicals for the longest time were like the supposed cause of so many of our illnesses.
And then there's the essential oil.
the
those kind of things too.
inflammation, how inflammation became like a catch-all for basically like any sort of
Any feeling.
ailment affecting you. And it usually was people who are not doctors finding some sort of obstacle or a grift or a niche that they can fall into and make a lot of money on, where they take a piece of published medical data and they wildly extrapolate on it to fit a narrative that at first glance seems to make sense. You're like, okay, well,
because
any one
pseudoscience
thing
follows scientific rules and principles, but then you don't realize that they basically start on a foundation that is completely untrue.
Exactly.
And
So
then twist every little bit.
it also kind of goes
as it
into
goes
a little bit
along.
about what Tati was saying in our last video, in our last episode, where she's talking about all these like mysterious illnesses that affect her gut health. Remember, she talks about her gut health, brain fog, chronic fatigue, lack of sleep, depression,
What was that thing where she was like, I don't think we mentioned last episode, but she was like really hard on herself for having to take a nap in the middle of the day. She was like, I used to always get so tired, and James would come around and be like,
and
oh,
make
you know, it's
fun of
time
me
for your
and be
nap.
like, have you taken your nap yet?
Yeah, and she was like, it was like a horrible thing she did, you would think, from how she talked about it. And now
Tati,
she doesn't have to.
your
now
husband's
she can stay
just
up
a
late.
dick.
And
Like-
now she can stay up late, but then go to sleep, and it's like best sleep of her life.
Exactly. And again, we are not here to diagnose, Tati, and I think
Hell
that is
no.
especially today going to be a very important disclaimer, because everyone listening to this is going to, I think, have very strong opinions about what we're going to discuss concerning Tati's health journey.
Yes.
So, first off, we did promise you last week that we were going to get into a little bit more of Tati's politics.
absolutely.
And I think this is kind of an essential foundation to go back to her video archive, which we will be ending with and kind of rounding out this whole series on, because Tati, like, if you don't really understand where she has landed, her beginnings won't really, I think, matter as much, because she'll just sound like some lady on YouTube. So
Can we, before you go into that real quick,
Yeah, go for it.
Can I just read like one of those quick, like almost WebMD summaries of oxalates,
Yes,
just so we're like all on the
please.
same page? Because I had to look it back up again. I remember, shout out to Maintenance Phase, who did an episode about Jordan Peterson and the meat and carnivore diet and how they Jordan Peterson truly like lost their mind and body in that process, and oxalates came up all the time. And
yeah,
there's a lot of
if
debate.
Tati winds up in a coma somewhere in El Paso, Texas, like, you heard it here first.
And didn't sleep for 24 days. So oxalates, I'm just going to read truly. Again, I hate to say WebMD because, like, ew, that place is full of paranoia and evil. But, like, even they don't have enough to really spin this anywhere. Like, there's some pretty solid stuff we know, and it's very limited, and obviously does not apply to any of the stuff that Tati and these carnivore diet people are, like, extrapolating as the cure-all miracle discovery. So oxalates are basically oxalic acid, which is a naturally occurring compound in plants, so thereby vegetables. The plant-based oxalates are consumed, through our diet, and as well are produced by the waste in our bodies. So various foods that are high in oxalates are rich in many nutrients that are beneficial to your health, like leafy greens, legumes, all that kind of stuff. However, because oxalates bind to calcium as they leave the body, they can basically, that one thing that you said I was saying might be true is the increase of kidney stones. And basically, because it binds to calcium in the body, is you're usually consuming enough calcium and consuming a regular amount of oxalates, which apparently most people consume a pretty average amount, and it doesn't fluctuate very heavily unless you're really doing a heavy leafy diet, which may come from veganism or other practices. As long as you're consuming enough calcium, it usually will bind that and just go through your body through waste. It's just like the biotin stuff we talked about with the sugar bear hair care, where you can take a lot of this material, like you can take a lot of this supplement, and your body, as always, just flushes it out and gets rid of it. It doesn't really build
the
up.
bioavailability of it, as well as how much your body is going to retain of it, is usually very minimal.
Yeah, it's very minimal, and it only really takes a doctor to like very much give you a comprehensive test to tell you that you're maybe consuming too much because your body cannot tolerate as much. And usually the symptoms are kidney stones or other issues through maybe some things with digestion. But again, it's very, very little is known about it. There's not enough to wildly make these claims that people are talking about all the time. And the truth is, cutting out vegetables in general, having a low amount of oxalates also causes issues in the body. So I think, as we'll get into this later, we always say this all the time, everyone has different types of bodies, and you really should refer to a doctor for information. And what's so upsetting is we can tell the pattern with the people that promote this stuff have never followed that regimen. They've never, ever have made it something that you need to have your own autonomy over.
Well,
it's something that you join as a movement. And
I
join
will
into
also
a
just
cause.
say, and this is how I'm kind of feeling about Tati specifically after the notes for today's episode, and putting them together and like really like digging into the psyche of
Like,
her
what is the motivation
original,
here,
like
right?
very early YouTube content is
Yeah.
like, I hate to like call up the like looming specter of hurt people, like you all could put your pitchforks down. We're not like doing discourse.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, when I encounter people like this, so often am I seeing patterns of somebody not addressing maybe or skirting around or finding ways to pathologize or monetize various facets of their personality, mental health, body image, etc. And then not just like projecting it onto others, but like indoctrinating others into their own feelings about their body, right? Like Tati's, and I can comfortably say this, legitimately fucked up view of body image, dieting, weight, etc. Like her new content is like a projection of that, but
and
also
it carries it.
She's like almost trying to get other people to feel the same way she does, because maybe I think psychologically or even just like emotionally, it's comforting to have other people feel the same way you do.
Of course.
And I think
that's what all this is for.
I think that extends to if you feel fucked up about yourself, you want probably other people to feel fucked up about themselves too, because then you can all be in it together and like be hashtag working on your growth. Like I again hate to call up like Instagram Canva ghosts on our podcast, right? Like it's spooky season. I'm not trying to summon the devil of Canva, but like misery loves company, and like it almost breeds more misery.
I really don't want to keep going on it either because we'll just not stop. But it really is like with culture, people that get sold into like pyramid schemes. It's like you are taught or exploited.
And I don't even
really.
think, I think we
premise.
want to be like on specifically the internet, the way we see this manifest on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the way that fads and things that are based not in reality and are typically rewarding a small amount of people with a lot of money. It's just like I feel like you just can't trust it inherently.
And I mean, I have never been a part of like a pro Anna community because I thought they were all kind of cringe back when anorexia was something that I struggled with. But like a lot of the mentality that I see in Tati and the way that her followers that have stuck around interact with her on social media and in comment sections reminds me of the like echo chamber that would happen on pro Anna Tumblr and on pro Anna forums, where it's like you are all validating each other's like truly fucked up behavior in a way that is just like completely self-contained, right? Like impervious to outside commentary. And in fact, like we see with so many radicalized internet communities, not just impervious, but like actively hostile, right?
Yes.
And I think
and that's when it turns into culture war.
And I think with Tati, there isn't the hostility yet. But you can sense the like brewing reactionary
I have notes on a recent
ideologies.
video where she talks about the hate comments in a way, and it's immediately like, it's no criticism allowed whatsoever.
We talked about this with like the
shut off the outside world hours,
the consumer goods scandal of her public image being a lie. But like when the Bi Sister stuff happened, it was like the mask dropped, and we saw that like very hostile, defensive, like reactionary side of her come out. And I think these politics really illustrate that. So these are just like
let's get into
a
it.
handful of things. And I don't think we can have any like legitimately cohesive view, but I think her tweets and the things that she supports, etc., are, I think, very indicative of who she is inside and beyond the public life. So she loves, for instance, Scott Barnes, who is like a huge Trumpy Republican freak. Loves working with him, loves, talking about how great he is, etc. She has posted about 5G and then deleted it. And I have seen the 5G tweets. They don't exist in full anymore. There are transcriptions of them. One of them still exists, but we can see the replies to her from March, April, and May of 2020 of people tweeting at her like, Tati, please stop tweeting about 5G. Like, this is a conspiracy, like it's harmful, etc. So she goes, quote, in the early pandemic, like we're talking early 2020, quote, super curious. Anyone having the weird non-corona symptoms, insomnia, vivid dreams, weird buzzing, anxiety, headaches, constant ringing in ears, sore throat that comes and goes even though I'm not leaving the house or around people at all? I keep a healthy lifestyle. So shrug emoji. And This was in response to some other tweets she had made about like what 5G was doing to her and like the new 5G lines in her
And the
neighborhood.
towers they're installing in
Yes.
LA. Yeah.
Like we don't see those tweets anymore because they're gone, but that was what this was a part of.
I see.
She also had her brand Halo Beauty, which we briefly talked about last week. They sold vitamins as like a large part of their business. And she put out a presser in the fall of 2020 that we don't have access to because it was like an email presser.
I see.
But I have an excerpt of it because one of her fans posted screenshots that she retweeted. I like went back on her Twitter and like basically read every coronavirus tweet that she's ever made. Not like coronavirus, but like I basically started from March and I just started scrolling and like
She doesn't post that much anymore either. She's gone pretty quiet on social media. Yeah.
But some follower of her was like, oh my God, like this is the coolest thing ever. I'm so proud to like be a fan of Tati and like this is what they're doing right now. And Tati like responded and was like, I'm like so proud to be able to use my platform and my company for like good in the world.
Oh God.
Now listen to this shit.
For coronavirus
We
misinformation.
kind of briefly
Amazing.
touched on this when I was getting mad and called her names in the last episode. This is from the brand itself. Quote, this coming fall, I was planning to launch an immunity boosting supplement from Halo Beauty to coincide with back to school. While there is no supplement that will cure or prevent a virus, boosting your immune system to perform at its peak has been proven to assist your body greatly and give you more quote, fight support when you need it most. My own personal struggles with immune function make this an important category. Immune function. Remember that.
Interesting phrasing, yes.
Making an important category within the Halo Beauty brand, which is why we have been, and then the email gets cut off. And then in the second screenshot, it says, when the COVID-19 started taking a foothold in China, again, a few months ago, we decided to accelerate the launch and bring it to market as quickly as possible,
They're like, we know this is
sparing
about to
no
spread.
expense. Long story short, it's still not finished in the lab, so I've made the decision that it is better to release all the information about the ingredients from our formula so that you can order from other brands and start building your own immunity boosting cocktail.
Oh my
This is
God.
not about me or any individual or business,
Sure.
which is why it was important to share that we
Is it free?
discovered about all these ingredients through our extensive research for the well-being
She's
of
like,
all.
oh, we actually cracked the immune system and we have a way to boost it to its
Yes.
maximum level.
Yes.
I remember so much of 2020 and 2021 was all about how the immune system is one of the most complex, difficult systems to understand that we are still trying to figure out how to. We know things that help, but to just give you a pill that can boost it is never been able to be claimed. And that's why even what was the airborne, those like, remember those tablets?
Yes.
Everyone saw those vitamin C tablets that went like create energy C. All of those got in so many lawsuits and got in so much trouble with government because they claimed it boosts your immunity system. And they were like, you actually can't prove that because no one's been able to prove that yet.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just sell a pill and say it's going to do it.
We saw a lot of like
That's still
brands
true
like
now.
be like, be your best self.
And
to
all the
fight
anti-vax
back.
people, which is so weird, was so confusing about pseudoscience, is they don't believe COVID is real or
we
exists,
saw
or they
this
think it's
on
a
Ultimate Girls
weaponized
Trip.
thing.
Vicky Gunvalson was like,
Yeah.
I gotta drink my COVID.
She takes like
shake.
17 different pills to prevent COVID because she doesn't want to get vaccinated. And it's like, what are we fighting here? What is the logic behind this? I still don't understand.
No,
that.
but also, can I just also say this? And we didn't talk about it so much in our last video because I wanted to save the Halo stuff for this specific email. But like, it is so curious to me that she goes on and on and on about like manufactured chemicals,
Right.
bioidentical hormones, bioidentical substances, you know, like, oh, like you're going to take like a bioidentical synthetic estrogen or like bioidentical vitamin A. Like you should just get that from meat. Like you should just get it from butter and like
The natural, high
the
quality
natural way to do
Yes.
it. And you had an entire vitamin brand entirely dedicated to like manufacturing different chemical substances.
Well, and the funny thing is she's now eating like the desiccated liver, which is basically liver they like
Yes.
dehydrate and put into pills. And it's like, again, where is the line here? The line is so arbitrary.
no,
all
and
the
it
time.
moves constantly.
It moves constantly with
And
what's in
I can
trend.
already feel people being like, it's all so hypocritical, and I promise you guys, just go on the journey with us because we will land this plane. I promise. Okay.
We just have to go a little higher.
So yeah, we haven't quite reached we're not quite at like
the stratosphere.
We're not quite like on the like SpaceX launch, you know.
Oh, like when they start to like leave orbit, like,
and they like drop the shuttle back to Earth. Like we're getting there, you guys. Like, so okay, we don't need to get into why the carnivore diet is problematic and tied almost exclusively to the right wing because, like we said already, Maintenance Phase has already done a fantastic episode on it, and we would just be retreading ground. However, I was looking into Tati's politics, and of course, beauty guru Snark Reddit loves
essential.
to just have opinions.
Yes.
Loves to have opinions. And like, again, I cannot stress enough that like the carnivore diet stuff is almost exclusively alt-right. Like,
yes,
basically
absolutely.
entirely alt-right. Like
people who are anti-vegan.
Carnivore MD, Joe Rogan,
Yes,
Jordan
anti-vax.
Peterson, anti-vax, alt-right. Okay.
Yep.
So this was a comment that I found that kind of kickstarted my, history lesson with Tati's old content. Quote, what irks me most is, this was in a random Reddit thread. What irks me most is that when she was in LA, she used to say she ate very clean, fresh produce from the farmer's market, Sprouts, and said she was in the best shape of her life and she was feeling energized and happy. I recall her saying she had a terrible headache because she ate a burger from Cheesecake Factory and that meat didn't sit well with her. How's it that all of a sudden she was making herself sick, but back in the day, she said she was eating, quote, healthy and feeling good? Make it make sense.
And wasn't she even vegan for a time?
Not vegan, but she was like eating almost like vegetarian.
Yeah, like high amounts of vitamins and yes.
And I mean,
oxalates apparently.
I also like have just on the politics side, I think that like we have seen, especially like anytime anyone starts bringing up like a trendy new diet tied to the sphere of wellness, like it immediately sets my right wing alarms off, right?
Oh, yeah,
because like
of
you
course.
scratch at what wellness means and it's just like a downhill spiral from there, right? Like that's pretty self-explanatory. And I also think that the reactionary homophobia of her James Charles rants,
yeah, it ties into that.
also ties into that as well, right? Like there was all of these clues before the 5G COVID immunity boosting cocktail stuff, right? Like I remember so clearly how angry she was that James discussed being gay in public.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, sucking dick and cock. Time and place, as she says.
Time and place.
Time and place is in the closet and outside of my purview.
Yeah.
Completely.
Time and place. And I think like it was kind of interesting too, because I think we were talking about this last week and I'm just thinking about it again now, right? Like how the veneer of the beauty community is so like inclusive, quote unquote, right? Like there's all these campaigns to be like the first face of like MAC that's like a man or trans or like
absolutely.
Like, oh look, like the new face of Pretty Little Thing is like this first time ever, identity. Like so much of it is like inclusivity and like broadening our
and the body
horizons.
positivity movement
And
intersects
the
heavily
makeup
and
community made a lot of money doing that. Like a lot of money.
and all the pink washing with it, obviously, just like you were
And
saying.
those beauty YouTubers not just like made a lot of money on it, but they like piggybacked on capitalizing on
Absolutely.
social movements and hijacking them to sell money.
I mean, most modern
to
makeup
sell
brands.
money, sorry, to sell makeup and make money.
Yeah, most makeup brands now, I mean, are led and are the spokespeople are influencers of YouTube and TikTok. I mean, that is becoming the majority, like,
And we
type of
see that
client
not
and
just
type of
with fashion.
inspiration.
I mean, we don't see that just with makeup. We see it with fashion.
And in
We
the end,
see it
that's
with
selling
style.
personality. It's
We
selling
see it with
identity.
like home design. All
Yeah.
the cheap shit that people got on other people on TikTok to buy and spend money on because it was like, here's how to be like a like trans person of mental health experience who has a foam mirror. Like.
the mirror that's made out of like pure
Like,
plastic.
yeah, and like hashtag Home Depot, use code this at checkout at Home Depot to get 10% off your
What
like.
was that list of like? I don't think it was IKEA or what was that? Or was it Target that made like the bisexual couch? Like all
Yes.
those ones. I can't even remember. It was like a fever dream of what that was.
But that's
last
what I'm
year.
saying. So like,
Yes, of
it's
course.
interesting that like, even though that is what all of these people are making their money off of.
Yeah, and are
you
part
also,
of.
and who Tati was also participating in.
Yeah.
this is really what their politics are. And I think it doesn't so much speak to like Tati's inherent griftiness so much as the extremely like not effervescent, but like mercurial nature of like fucked up body image, right? And like fucked up politics and fucked up beliefs about your own mental health. Like over the course of a life, it is so easy to just constantly apply these like bad behaviors and bad self-image practices onto like basically anything, right? Like it could just change shape constantly.
And it starts small when she's not as big or as popular, but now that the thing with James Charles happened, then the Halo Beauty like collapsed, and then COVID, and then she's moved, and now she has to rebrand. It's now becoming like that's all she has left.
And I think
which is why we're here. I mean, really, right?
I think about it so much too with the Try Guys, right? Where it's like we always are talking, and one of the things that is always a pain point in any discussion of internet communities is like, what responsibility do creators have to their audiences, right? Like, where does responsibility lie? What does it look like? And what does accountability look like for communities where you can get on the internet and just say whatever the fuck you want, right? Like, at what point do you basically just absolve yourself of responsibility for the things people do in your name? And at what point do you take accountability for it? Yeah. And I think with Tati, what I noticed throughout her career is the sort of community and the sort of like just wild body image stuff that she cultivated around her just like got like so many people were affected by it. Like you go back to those videos from like 2011 and you read the comments and they're like, oh my God, Tati, like hearing your basically journey of starving yourself has like made me feel so empowered to starve myself. I'm paraphrasing, but like.
No, I know what you mean though. I know exactly what you mean.
And like with the Try Guys, right? Like that image that they cultivated, I think it is all so connected. So let's get into some of her videos. Now, okay. I do just want to say, like, this is not going to be a necessarily easy part of the episode. Like, this is the part, I think, where it gets kind of fucked up and the way that she feels about herself gets pretty broadly put on display. So I just want to, like, caution everyone that we will be talking about, like, truly disordered eating and, like, really, like, fat-phobic body image stuff. So just, like, take that for what you will. Protect yourself however necessary. If you need to turn us up to 2 times speed, go feel free, do it. So this video, which is the first one we're going to watch, it's called My Weight Loss Story. It was filmed over 10 years ago. She says very early on in the video that she's wanted to make it for so long. She's wanted to share her story for like the entire time she's been on YouTube, which again, like it's pretty funny if you think about it. At that point, she's already like, I've wanted to just like make this story for like a really long time. So she says, quote, I mentioned that in my late teens, I gained around 45 pounds. And this is how I lost the weight and how long it took me. So, quote, along the way, I become more passionate about health. We have the opportunity to make choices every day that gives us choices to be healthy. This is not about being a particular size. This is not me telling you lose weight and this is how. My biggest fear in filming this is that I don't want to offend anyone. She goes on to say that she doesn't want to be judged or shamed for being skinny.
Oh, my favorite talking
And like,
point.
she's talking about it all like, I gained like 45 pounds. I was up to 160 pounds, which again,
unless she's like 3'5", like,
which again, we're going to get into it. But like the entire stuff is like,
then, it's just,
I've heard from a lot of my friends who write within like the body activism space that like something that is perpetually reoccurring in a lot of diet culture is people who used to be societally perceived as fat, who are no longer fat, and then using the like shame they have about that as like a selling point or a grift or like a cudgel to beat other fat people with.
Hurt others, I want misery loves company.
Yeah, like,
I was disgusting. I hated myself.
And this is how I made myself not feel bad anymore. Okay, so she says, quote, like she says, she doesn't want to be shamed or judged for being skinny now and talking about this. And this is where it gets very interesting. So she says that she used to eat a lot and it gave her acne. She says something Something she says 10 years later was actually fixed by her all meat and butter diet. So what I'm saying here is like, so she says 10 years ago that eating healthy, eating vegetables, eating fruit and vegetables, and like cutting out meat, cutting out fast food, cutting out like fatty foods, made her like clear up her skin. Her skin became better. She didn't have any acne anymore. She like all of her health problems went away.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, now
like
in our
word for
present
word the
time,
same
she's
thing.
saying that she had all this problem with acne, and like cutting out vegetables and eating meat is what rid her of the acne.
She literally said the skin, the fatigue,
Yes.
the acne.
It gets better. So she says, quote, I was, quote, moody, upset, emotional, withdrawn from life, so down. And this was a really hard space in my life. I had a lot of upset going on, and I reached for food. I reached for comforting food. We all love food, but sometimes that can become too much. We reach for it too much. So this is also very interesting, and this is what I'm talking about with the mental health stuff, right? Like this perpetually reoccurring symptom of fatigue, the chronic dizziness and lightness of the head, brain fog, like sleepiness, drowsiness, no energy, anxiety, like depression. Like she said that being fat made her feel that way, and because she was not eating well, and then she got skinny and it changed. My whole life changed. I'm not depressed anymore. I'm not anxious anymore. I feel amazing. My life is amazing. I've woken up. It's like coming out of a dream.
Yeah.
10 years later, says eating vegetables, eating like processed foods was making her feel that way. And
I guess
only eating meat and fat.
I guess as we allegedly the oxalates build up like crystals. So allegedly 10 years makes sense, I guess, right? Because it was 10 years of abuse of the body. That was a delayed reaction.
But do you see what I mean about how like throughout her life, this specific set of symptoms that you and I, if we went to our therapist today and described, would just describe maybe as, for me, I know it's manic depression, but also just general depression or anxiety disorders.
Right?
Like,
it's all the same symptoms, yeah.
Just generalized things that like then can become more specific with treatment and diagnosis and whatnot. But like, I know that I have those persistent things. But for me, it's like mania and depression combining into a really cool set of superpowers.
Yes, superpowers indeed.
But like, I know that when these feelings crop up in my life, that I can't get caught up in feeling like, oh, it's because I've gained 10 pounds, or like, oh, it's because I'm eating better. Oh, like as a person recovering from an eating disorder, like I always have to remind myself that like I felt like this when I was at my skinniest, and I feel like this at a very healthy weight, and that this is not something that like is tied to the way that my body looks at any particular moment.
Absolutely.
My own fucked up set of body image stuff certainly exacerbates the mania and depression at times, but I've learned to identify when that's happening through treatment and through recovery and like identifying the trigger points within this. But like hearing her 10 years apart basically say the same exact thing, but each time she just like applies a different method and sees like an immediate like, oh, I'm all better now.
Well, the only thing that's interesting is that she did change one thing, which now she talks about how she gained weight, but in a good way, like muscle and protein.
Yeah, that there's
like,
a good kind of fat.
There's a good kind of fat. Yeah, and that the way that she gained weight was a good thing because this time it's done the right way. It's not through bad foods and the opposite.
But that's what I'm saying. Do you see how she's
And it's funny how this has an excuse to gain weight.
Do you see how like almost
Because it's a
internally
different
she's
type
just
of weight.
constantly relitigating the same thing over and over and over again?
Exactly. And also
it's kind of sad. Like, to be honest, it makes me just really sad.
No, it does. I mean, I am like I don't want to. I mean, I am sad for her in a way. Like I'm sad for anyone that I think gets trapped.
But
in a
my
cycle
sympathy
like this.
ends when
And
it affects people.
Yeah,
when
and-
she's like projecting this on
And
her.
I won't lie,
audience.
she's good. I'll be radically honest, speaking of the radicals. When I was watching the initial video where she talked about this diet, I really was like, huh. Like, even knowing this is not healthy, and there's so many health issues we've
Because
seen
it's
in the people that are
YouTuber syndrome.
Yeah, because it's charismatic YouTuber syndrome, and
You don't have to cite your sources.
And I believe her when she says she feels better because I don't see her lying and doing this purposely to manipulate and spread misinformation. None of these people are doing that. They're not here going, oh, I know a great way to scam everybody.
No.
Maybe the people that are selling meat in bulk are like, yes, let's just omit anything we know about this and just sell all this damn meat in bulk.
I talked to a youth counselor once who used a really shitty analogy. Not shitty in the sense that it was like bad or harmful. It was just like
Corny.
grown.
Yeah.
New pants syndrome that a lot of people fall into, where it's like, oh, I got a new pair of pants and now my life is better.
No, I mean, like, that is what it is.
No, but what I'm saying is we talked about this last week too, where she talks about like when I was describing kind of my own journey through having an eating disorder, how you like change something and then you immediately feel better. But then eventually the things that you're not addressing come creeping back in, right? Like the pair of pants gets dirty. It gets the holes
and
in
you
the
remember
ribs.
that nothing stays new.
And that, oh shit, like I can't, and like no amount of new pairs of pants is going to fix what's actually making me feel
what we have
way.
in the parallel of these two videos is her talking about how she felt hopeless and there was no escape. And then now she found something and now it's taking her out of it. But then statistically proving to not be the case anymore.
And I think also, I mean, I don't want to like make an overarching point about the YouTube algorithm, but I think what's very interesting is that even if this content isn't as successful as it once was, because Tati is like, as we described very much in depth the last episode, like completely pivoting her audience
and resetting
and that
her
is
fan
going
base.
to come with like a huge reset of numbers. But I think that it's like the fact that like at one point, one of the most successful YouTubers is pivoting in this way, but also has this pattern, I think speaks to just the way that YouTube works in general, right? Like we see this with streamers a lot of the times, the way that the streaming economy works, right? Like you have the big game of the moment and everyone's like, it's the greatest game ever. It's like the best game ever. It's like the game everyone wants to play. And then eventually like cracks start to show, like streamers like have no more ways to like speed run the same thing over and over again. And they find the new game, right? And like you're constantly reinventing a core set of beliefs about your channel because it is the only way to keep the ball rolling, right? Like you can't just be firm in your politics or be firm in your belief systems. And obviously the Twitch thing is like a really low hanging fruit, but I just think in general, like the largest YouTubers know that if they want to keep this ball rolling, that they can't believe what they believed yesterday. You know what I mean?
They can't be satisfied with not raising the bar.
Because I think now more than ever, there is a greater incentive to live in like a post-truth era of YouTube. Because I think we're seeing with the Try Guys and even what happened with Bon Appetit, when you try to maintain that like long-running, like
genuine,
seamless architecture on your channel where it is like, just like, you know, just
consistent,
like an endless strip mall of the mind as far as the eye can see, right? Like I just think that, I don't know, it's interesting to see Tati doing this so many different times. So she also says that, okay, now this is the dark part, which is like, have you ever like just heard someone say something and you're like, ooh.
Okay, you haven't read it yet, but I have notes on a video later where that's the entire video.
She said she became a ballet dancer at 3, which...
Fuck, God bless.
I'm sure it came with its own set of baggages.
I wonder,
She says that after she quit dance because, quote, a few life things happened and, quote, she fell into reaching for food, she gained a lot of weight. So this is something that Tati does a lot. And she did it 10 years ago and she does it now, where she's never specific because honesty seems to be something she's allergic to, right? Like she's constantly like, I just want to be honest with you guys. I just want to like be transparent. I just want to be myself. I just want to show you the real me, right? Like the real me is like eating raw oysters, like that have been dehydrated over like 180-day process. And I'm eating like desiccated liver, right? Like she's like, I'm just being honest, but like, she's not really being honest, right? Because these things that she's talking about going through a quote hard time, like I'm sure it would probably explain a lot. About
I would
this,
think so. Yes.
But she can't say it because it would probably detract from what she ends up arriving at in this particular video. So she says she needed to, quote, I'm going to have dessert at every meal. I'm going to have milkshakes. I'm just going to like, food is just going to become my life. I gained 10 pounds. Who cares? Then 20, then 40. Okay. Then she says, quote, I realized I needed to do something because I wasn't healthy. She tried crash diets for a year and a half, but she also did, quote, unhealthy things, which again, like, you're seeing.
It's like, what exactly does that mean?
Tati, do you even think about, like, maybe why you felt like shit wasn't the fact that you gained weight? It was because you were on crash diets for 2 years and, like, doing
or practicing
unhealthy things that we don't need to extrapolate on, but could probably infer.
Yes.
She says, don't do it. You will always revert back to who you were.
So she was in a prime state before and now is reverting? Like, is that what? Okay, anyway.
She's saying that, like, the crash diets don't work.
Well, of course, it's true. They don't.
She says she then fixates
No diets
for
work.
a long time about how fat she looks in old videos. She says things.
Oh, God.
She says she looks sad. She obsesses over how round her face is. She keeps
Again,
things
that association with being fat and being undesirable and
she
unattractive.
Says she keeps like sighing and like wistfully
And, like,
saying
shame.
to herself, like, my face was getting tinier as I lost weight. Like, my face is I'm tiny again. Okay. She then plays dumb and says, quote, wow, I can't believe anyone would want to see old photos of me. Like, oh God, why would you want to see old video? Like, Tatia,
Ma'am, you're the main character.
You literally started your video by like promising you were going to show people photos of when you were 45 pounds heavier. Like, you're not dumb. You knew that that's clickbait. Like, of course people want to see old photos of you. It's literally
Meanwhile, the thumbnail will be like an out of focus Polaroid shot and like a circle over it. Like, they're like
the
crying next
entire
to it.
premise of this video is clickbait.
Oh my God.
Okay. She also says, quote, whenever people comment on my videos and say, you're so pretty, Tati, there's a part of me that wants to break their image of me.
Oh, here we go.
And then she trails off. I started this channel because I wanted to reach out to women. Now, I am going to play this out loud, but if you are a sensitive person, I would just protect your spirit because she is so hateful to herself. And this is truly just a very depressing thing to hear someone say.
Wanted to see photos, so there were photos. I very much like whenever people, comment on my videos and they're like, "You're so pretty, Tati. You're so," and that it's a sweet compliment. It's so sweet, but there's a part of me that just wants to like break the image of that, and I started out this channel because I wanted to reach women, and I knew I had a story, and I knew I had felt really bad about myself in the past. And any secrets or beauty tips or fashion tips that I learned along the way, I wanted to share. Holy smokes. Okay, I can do this. I'm gonna lose an eyelash in a second.
Wasn't that like the darkest thing that you've maybe ever heard in your entire life? Like, it's upsetting the way her body language is like so physically repulsed talking about this. Like, do you see what I'm saying now about these cycles
like,
within her life?
Fuck. It's like, and this is coming from somebody who's been in therapy for a while. Like, you need a therapist to talk about this with. It's clearly unresolved. It's clearly like resentful and dark and intense.
She literally,
you have not processed what you really feel.
This is what she sounds like in her new videos.
Like, seeing that and thinking 10 years later she's in the same space mentally about that is like really upsetting.
And also, again, like,
and she's 40 years old at this point too.
This was when she was in her 30s. Like,
early
she
30s,
knew better
yeah.
than to be doing this.
Yeah.
But I also think that, like, what is even more interesting than that too is the way that she frames the fact that she used to be fat as like an irreparable sin on her life that is like totally irreconcilable with who she is now. She's like,
it's like a stain.
She's like, people think I'm pretty, but they don't know I used to be 45 pounds heavier.
Oh my God, that really is what it is. That really is what it is. It's like, no, you're wrong, because objectively, I was disgusting.
Yes.
And you can't forget
but it's
that.
the way that
and
she
it's
still
empowering
feels.
for me to remind you that that was once a part of my life. And it kind of gives the like, religious turned pyramid scheme people who are like, I was
Yes.
lost, I found God, now I'm doing this.
Matt, it's literally that, though. It doesn't
is.
sound like it. It is that. Like
I was on the streets, I was doing terrible
but
things,
do you
I
hear
was a
also
heathen, you know.
the very, like,
I was a sinner.
cyclical nature. I keep saying cyclical. Everyone just like crash your car every time I say the word cyclical this episode. But like
Swerve off the highway.
There's no other way to explain it. It is just like a recurring pattern throughout her life. And at this point, like, mama, let's research. Like it's
she's researching.
There's a motif in your life
Yeah.
that looks, sounds, and smells exactly like this that occurs like once every 3 years. Like at this point, haven't you maybe thought broader than the oxalates and the like milkshakes?
It makes everything
like,
she said in her last video we talked about in part 1 just really feel more like
this feels like it was the prelude to that video.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
they are like 12 years apart.
Oh my god, it's crazy. It's
Okay,
so crazy.
we're gonna keep going. So she then says, like, no fast food, watch what you are drinking, and aim it to cut out processed foods, aim to not eat white starches. And then this is the most important part. This is just like a summary of like her like method of losing 45 pounds. This is my favorite part. Can you read that next sentence?
If you do eat meat and dairy, make sure you're getting good quality. I love chia seeds, blueberries, olive oil, and hot sauce. I love salad. Sorry, I can't.
So she's like, be careful of meat and cheese, but do eat salads and blueberries.
I love hot sauce being like a food item. Like,
Okay.
I mean, it's literally just a little bit of
She
salt.
then goes into a grocery haul, which was like filmed shortly after the weight loss
She was
video.
like just talking about what if I pivoted to like food content and what I do in a day. And it's like, you already did that, mama.
You already
Like 10
did.
years back. Like, no reference to this, of course, though. And also these videos will not be deleted, of course.
Oh
Wait, what
my
is she
God.
doing this
So
grocery
yeah,
haul?
just look at tell the girls about what.
It looks like she's shopping for gluten-free, dairy-free. She says she loves gluten-free pepperoni pizza, quote-unquote healthy junk-free. Oh, crawl. Kettle cheese. Oh, girl, this is so Justin.
This is my favorite part. She loves almond breeze, and then says, "quote I don't keep dairy in the fridge." What is that next sentence?
I feel like I'm slightly lactose intolerant. If I have dairy, I feel like I break out. Break out?
In
Mama.
acne, the acne that she cured by not eating meats, and then later re-cured by eating meat.
I'm sorry, but I don't keep dairy in the fridge. Does that mean she does buy dairy sometimes and keeps it out of the fridge?
No,
Or she just doesn't
says,
buy it in
like,
general?
She just doesn't keep it at all.
Okay, I was like concerned if she's doing
But
like
then
only
she's
room temp milk or
only
something.
eating dairy and meat a decade
Oh yeah,
later.
and now she's talking about how she's reintroducing to dairy and lactose, and she feels great. And it's like
I'm just like
not a problem for her.
It
skin
is
at all.
like truly like all I can think about is this quote from The Wheel of Time. The wheel of time turns and the ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the third age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose. The
stop.
wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the wheel of time, but it was a beginning. Like, that's how I feel about the kettle chip. Like the single bag of kettle chips on Tati's counter in 2011. I'm like,
oh my god,
a wind blows. It's the start of a new age. It's not the first stage or the last. It's just another turning of the wheel. Like,
certainly not. No. Oh
so
my God.
she also has this very brief scoop that we have about her new Texas state in the
let me load the
suburbs.
photos, mom.
Girl.
I want to see this house. Wait, so this is the house she downsized to?
The downsized.
6,200 squares. Oh my god.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're getting this from Dirt, which is like a real estate blog.
house is
Pre-pandemic,
ugly as
and I'm getting this directly from them. So, quote, pre-pandemic, the Westbrooks had split their time between a multi-million-dollar Los Angeles compound and a high-rise luxury apartment in Tati's native Seattle. Both those places are long gone. The LA real estate was sold for $3.8 million in late 2020. The Seattle condo lease ended, and Westbrooks majorly downsized to a $520,000 bungalow elsewhere in LA. Now, we're talking about this because against the backdrop of the politics, against the backdrop of the old videos and the new carnivore diets, she moved to Texas, right?
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit about where she lives in Texas now. So Partly for more space and to
This
get more
house is
bang for their
wild.
real estate bucks, the Westbrooks have, quote, now decided to relocate to Texas, where they've settled near the fast-growing city of Fort Worth, securing the keys to an impressive suburban estate with plenty of space for filming and a beauty studio, guest quarters, and much more. The Lone Star State is a bit stingy about revealing the sale price of its homes, so it remains unclear how much Westbrook paid for her new digs. However, the property has been publicly offered at $2 million and was on the market for less than a week before
At
finding
least.
a buyer.
Yeah.
So it's probably a good guess that the 40-year-old guru paid very close to the asking price, or maybe even a bit above it. It was custom built in 2013 and sold to the Westbrooks by NFL star Dominic Raiola. The $6,200 square foot mansion is described in the listing as a, quote, emasculate custom French colonial and sits within a gated community. Westbrook
So
has
ugly.
already filmed a preliminary tour of the premises and shared that she's renovating the whole place, so some finishes seen in the photo may also no longer be there.
I see.
It's ugly as sin.
5 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms. Yeah, no, it's giving, I mean, it's McMansion. It's not even giving McMansion. It is McMansion.
But it is kind of iconic to like move out of LA and like buy this shit in the middle of the fucking Texas suburbs in Fort Worth.
What did we say? That's what these people really are. They want to live in individualist, isolationist, car dependent, compound.
I mean, I
estates.
think
Like,
people were like, "Whoa!"
it's the most
we were
American
just talking
thing you
about
can
like
do.
really dark weight loss and body image stuff, and now we're talking about the home. But I think that, like you're saying, so much of these choices are rooted in that like reactionary politic, right?
Absolutely.
Like the need to like escape the like
Dangerous
morally
city.
corrupt,
Yes.
dangerous
The
city.
vegans in LA are obviously terrifying her,
Yeah,
I would assume.
she needs to go to Texas where the girls like their meat and
I mean,
butter.
she does talk about going to local places to get her meat, so I'm sure she's near a fucking slaughterhouse.
So you also have some makeup breakup goodbyes.
Okay, yeah.
videos?
So we'll end on this, but there was some videos that she's released since her main video about the carnivore diet, and there's just some interesting things in here I wanted to bring up, like some things that were a little shocking. Again, one of those moments where you watch her, like you just said, and go, what was that, James? Yeah. So I'll be quick though. Let's get into it. So one of her more recent videos after the everything about the carnivore diet, she did one of those makeup breakup goodbye broken heart emoji videos. This is a video where she's basically throwing out all of her old makeup. There is literally like thousands of products stacked in piles in her closets and dressers all over her apparently 6,200 square foot house. So in typical Tati fashion, she starts super casual, very surface level, really just going through all the foundations, all the different products she has, talking about how old they are. And then over like 10, 15 minutes into this video, she starts talking about the age of the makeup and how there is bacteria and, quote unquote, minerals that develop over time. And she's very vague, like we said before. So she doesn't give any exact examples or studies or anything here, but she basically says, quote, this is kind of a new thing for me, making sure I'm aware of what I'm putting on my face. Maybe it's more about working with what we have and not buying a million different products.
Again, do we see how she's pivoting her in her base here, where she's like, guys, ignore
Everything was wrong.
Ignore everything I said about buying like $200 foundation and just literally like lacquering it on your face with a fire hose, like take off the silicone clown mask we've been applying for the last 10 years. We're actually going au natural from now on.
Those videos are like what happens if you put on 100 t-shirts. Like that's what it feels like when I think about how much she's put on her face in these videos. So
how recent and how literally recently,
and she's still doing it now.
Just a few episodes prior, she's like, drugstore haul, I bought all the cheapest makeup in Walgreens.
Yeah, let me go to Sephora and do whatever the person recommends, like buying a bunch of garbage. And all these things she shows are like $50 to $60 to $100 sometimes, and you're just like, you can't even count the numbers.
And she's just
too much.
throwing it away.
Yeah, she's like, it's bad. It's literally expired. Of course, she casually brings up how she's working out so much, which, okay, interesting thing. I don't know if it was in that video 10 years back, but she claims in her more recent video about the carnivore diet that she wasn't working out really at all, which I was like, Mama, that's like the one thing everyone will tell you will help you in some way with the issues you're dealing with.
Well, no, she does say in the carnivore diet that she's like working out.
Yeah,
in her
now
closet.
she is, but I wonder if before she just never was. It's just, I don't know, it's very interesting to pivot to all the vegan stuff before. And
I do like the stuff about the healthy weight she gains.
Yeah, no, she's talking about,
and then the demon that enters her body.
No, so listen, this was wild. Okay, so she's talking about how she's getting healthy weight, and then she's talking about this, well, she mentions about this like bra that she was wearing, her sports bra, but now it's like really tight on her, so it felt claustrophobic because she's gaining this weight. And then she just really randomly brings up this like heated exchange with her husband, is what she calls it, where he made a comment about how people commented on her video saying she looked kind of sweaty recently. Like, I guess maybe it was just some joke, like, oh, did you hear that they're saying you're sweaty?
We do have a term for the meat sweats, you know? Like,
well, so, and then she basically has this whole thing where she was like, well, you know, I've been very sweaty due to life stresses. I haven't had my period. I have stress about Puka, which is her dog who's
like
ill.
sick.
Yeah, like dying.
It's like, I think like it's like missing an eye now.
I really can't tell. It's hard to keep track. And she says, I just don't know.
Puka has too many oxalates.
And she says, I just don't know what really triggered me. And she also talks about how like it was so tight on her that she freaked out and just ripped it off her body. And that's when her husband was there talking about how she looked sweaty, I guess. And then she says, I really had to write this word for her. I watched like 7 times because I was like, I can't understand what you're saying here. She just said, quote, anyone else have random out-of-body breakdown experiences every once in a while? And you're just like, who's that? You need to leave. And then she just like moves on. Like that was just like quirky girl things. And I was like, just talk about having a dissociative mental breakdown that felt like you didn't know who you were in that moment. Like, Mama, let's research. Like, we need to talk about that. What do you mean?
And then I love this part. If I look sweaty to you, it's just my highlight. I'm good. I like looking sweaty. It's my J-Lo fantasy. Yeah. I don't know if I want to stop that for other people. And again, if I do say so myself, J-Lo's makeup artist is Scott Barnes.
Oh! Okay, so then, I didn't even think about that. So then randomly she just kind of transitions into, and this is where it's not about the hate comment stuff. She says, people ask, how do you deal with the hate comments? And of course I just say I don't read 90% of them, but some of them like totally triggered me and made me feel crazy. But then I look into those triggers and use that to work on myself and get past that. It's like therapy. It's so weird. And it reminds me, I don't know if we mentioned this in the last video, but if you watch her whole video about the carnivore diet, she talks about how she focuses her free time when she's not making videos on cooking, cleaning, staying in the home, not watching the news, and praying to God. Like, it's very like, I do not see nor hear hours in this household. Like, that's the part where I'm like, Okay, so then she goes back into reviewing the random crap that she's throwing away. And then she briefly, so this part threw me. Okay, I literally was like, is she fucking with me? This can't be real, but it is. She briefly mentions when talking about this random bronzer that she's putting on, that she says basically like that she's been using beef fat on her skin for highlight. And she says, quote, maybe that's what people are mad about. I don't know. And I can't tell if she was joking, but then at the end, she talks about her tallow-based products review, tallow being beef fat and pork fat. And then she talks about this whole other video, which is about her shocking beauty faves. So I, of course, had to click into that, and let me tell you what that's about, because
I'm loving the idea of her like dipping into the like beef
dipping,
like, literally dipping into the like bacon grease jar and being like
open the Crisco, Mama. Like, no, that's vegetable shortening. That has oxalates. Sorry, that's seed oil. We can't get into that. No, this is specifically the pork fat.
Keep going.
So this is from her shocking beauty phase, I'm obsessed video. Obviously the video in general is about her favorite lifestyle products. They're not necessarily about makeup, but about like toothpaste and the random items. So
I also love how all of these are all like literally definitions of clickbait titles.
Oh my God, all caps, shocking beauty faves, ... I'm obsessed, ! And then the video is always her like reacting heavily and emotionally. So of course Sherry starts the video by like hawking a $20 bottle of this like mineralizing, which is an interesting thing she always brings up, is the minerals. And
she needs to remineralize. Well, because remember, she doesn't do fluoride.
Well, the
so her mouth
oxalates-
is just full of cavities.
Oh yeah, no, the fluoridization, of course. She talks about her perfect pH balanced mineralizing toothpaste that she said tastes disgusting, and that she literally was spitting it out, but then learned to love it. And talking about how it helps her bad breath, I guess. That
The
she's-
makeup remover
she
that
doesn't-
removes eyelash mites. Like,
She goes into a whole thing of like, oh, there was like this new fear unlocked where there's like mites that can grow on your eyelashes if you don't clean them properly, and she just doesn't really get into what that means or if that has happened to her.
Sure.
Also, my favorite thing was talking about that toothpaste. She does the whole like, oh my god, it's so embarrassing to admit it, but you know, when you just like wake up and your breath smells horrible, like it's so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm telling you about this.
She opens that toothpaste bottle and it says, "I'm here to make a bad situation worse."
And it's also shaped like a serum bottle. It looks so excessive in its
I am
plastic
about to
use.
create a vibe that is so toxic in your mouth.
Okay, so then she starts dabbling a little bit into clean formula mascaras. And she basically says, most mascaras were burning my eyes. So
Of course, that's why she did it for 10 years.
So this is the red flag of these 2-part episodes. This is the moment right here. So she's talking about, she went on Instagram to find, she had a mission to find quote unquote non-toxic products. She says, quote, so I was all on the non-toxic makeup, non-toxic mommy blogs, non-toxic this and that. I kind of dipped myself into that world only a little, and I want to be careful not to jump into it too quickly. And then she says, of course, like, we get this like late in the video, this will set some people off. Maybe I just don't know. And then she starts talking about her transition from the plant-based diet to the carnivore diet. This is before she does her Q&A video that we see later. But then she basically reiterates the points that we see in that larger video where she says, I cried to James saying I feel like I've been sick my whole life. And that she's been doing research, of course, on the seed oils and the meat diets and discovering tallow-based products. So then this is where she brings up the beef fat.
I'm sorry. This next sentence is wild. Okay.
So she pulls up this bottle of Toops Organics. That's the name of the brand, which is apparently a beef fat based retinol balm. And she says that she uses it all over her body. And she says, quote, you will all of a sudden be like, wow, why was I using these 50 skin creams and moisturizers when all they did was make you feel good in the moment and then dry you out later? This stuff keeps you moist for so much longer.
Beef fat based
Mama,
retinol.
skipping the beef fat retinol balm cream, whatever the fuck. Again,
Beef
she
fat
just admitted
retinol?
that the moisturizers she's been hawking for a decade and a half are all kind of bullshit, and this is the first one to actually moisturize
okay,
you.
this is what
How do we keep doing this?
No,
How do
but
people keep believing
without
this?
pissing off my neighbors by screaming literally in the dark. I do think that this is really why I wanted to talk so much about this and why I brought up the responsibility conversation, because I don't
Right.
think that you and I are going to successfully litigate the history and impact of YouTube in the next 10 minutes.
No.
But I do think that there is something genuinely fascinating that she has publicly zero accountability for all of this mascara that she was getting people to buy and
Yep.
that she was making money on by using
Yes.
fucking discount codes and like
And the
use
affiliate
Tati at
links.
checkout.
And they send her free stuff
affiliate
all
links and
the
all
time.
the free shit she got people to spend money on.
Yeah.
The better than sex mascara.
She even says in this other video I'll bring up really quickly later that, you know, she'll be sent something and she knows this doesn't follow the principles that I would follow in terms of chemical-free, clean products.
But that's what I'm saying.
But she doesn't really
She's
know
like-
enough yet,
she's like,
so why not
guys,
just do it?
The mascara that I've been using for the last 12 years, 10 years, has been burning my eyelashes. And it's like, okay, but you still got in front of the camera and told people to buy it. Like,
Yeah, like,
you have
you weren't-
zero
you weren't saying
accountability.
that before.
10 years ago, you were telling people to switch to a plant-focused diet and to stay away from too much meats, cheeses, and dairy because it was bad for you and it was excessive
And now
and it caused you to
suddenly-
gain weight. And now they need to reverse course. The other thing was killing you. You're never going to mention the fact that you previously said something completely contradictory.
And then the thing about the moisturizers, Mama.
And then the
Oh,
worst,
so beef fat's really the only good
the
moisturizer
worst
now?
part is, and apologize for my deployment of stupid bitch, but like the worst part is this fucking freak has the audacity to act like the fucking victim in the situation.
Oh yeah, they're just trying to be honest. They were struggling, and it's really hard on them.
The persecuted prophet flogging herself on the street corner because she's the only one willing to take her blindfold off and see the true face of God.
Which is that you need to jump into the vat of rendered beef fat from the factory.
The rest of us are suffering, and we just need to follow the light. And it's like, lady, listen, like, you're not the victim. You live in a $2 million house in fucking Fort Worth, Texas. You sold multiple $1 million homes in the last 2 years. Okay, you had a fucking company. You had the most successful beauty YouTube channel in your lane at one point. Okay, you're not the victim because now you're the truth teller. Okay, like, you don't get to be the persecuted party in this particular setup. Like,
and then she has the audacity to end the video with, I just want to focus more on inner beauty. This is before the Q&A, so it's all about the diet. So the inner beauty really translates to the outer.
And this is the shit.
It's like, Mama, you're a makeup artist.
This is the shit that really gets my gears going, because we are not secretive about the fact that, like, especially for me, being a feminist is a huge part of my identity.
Absolutely.
Like, as a human being. It is like core to who I am as a person and the way that I experience the world, live in it, and express myself. And for fucking years, people like me who wear a lot of makeup at times, who love fashion and who love accessorizing and the glitz and the glam and talking about, like, the artifice of womanhood and how it makes us feel and how we experience it and live in it, and reclaiming, like, sexist tropes about, like, people who wear makeup and all that. We still were ringing the alarm that companies had infiltrated feminist spaces to sell people products and say that you need all of this to feel good.
Or
right?
feel liberated.
Like, be liberated with your new mascara. Be liberated with your new lipstick. And they fucking deployed snakes like Tati Westbrook to push that line and infiltrate that feminist messaging. For fucking 10 years, her whole thing on YouTube has been like, we're all about, like, confidence and beauty and, like,
what did she say in the video? My goal was to reach women.
To reach women.
It's like feminism. Like, she wants to
She wants to teach you about fashion and makeup and how to feel good and look good and be your best
not be
self.
scammed.
And not be, and, like, all that. But, like, that was the line that companies that had infiltrated these feminist spaces and co-opted languages of empowerment, of, you know, female self-identity and self-actualization, like, all of these things that were concepts feminists had been fighting for and reclaiming for, like, 50 years in the West. I'm not saying in, like, the entire arc of history.
Oh, no, definitely the West,
and
absolutely.
especially concepts that were pioneered by specifically Black feminists and trans scholars, and then gets co-opted by fucking NYX and freaking Ulta and Sephora, and then shilled through Tati. And then when that's no longer the good niche to fit because nobody wants to listen to her fucking ramblings about 5G, she gets to pivot and be like, actually, all of that's fake. The shit we put on the outside doesn't matter. It's about how we feel on the inside that really counts. Like, these people truly want to have it both ways. They live in a world where their own personal convictions mean absolutely nothing when it comes to what makes them money. That is truly the driving force here. How she can make money and how she can keep shilling her fucking conspiracy bullshit on YouTube as long as fucking possible and just peddling misery as a solution to more misery.
It's just like, she really said, quote, like,
I'm sorry for going on.
No, it's fine. She really said she's focusing on, quote, inner beauty and health as well as outer makeup and things. It was like, oh, that stuff, yeah, I guess I have to. I guess I'm here for that. And then proceeds to make like 5 videos about foundation and like different products she's using.
The spirit of Delta work came over me. I'm sorry.
No, like I watched that video, and then this next video I watched, which I don't really have many notes on, it's like called 100+ foundations. This is heartbreaking emoji.
And then I'm sure
she loves to use the heartbreak.
Guys,
trope.
the oxalates in my foundations.
No, actually not. Well, no, this time it's the forever chemicals that are blocking the hormones.
Every time we kissed, my foundation got on my husband's face and it built up kidney stones that he had to painfully pee out, and he hates me now.
No, but literally the fact again about limiting the products and focusing the inner beauty, and then she makes a video where she tests 100 foundations on her hands and body. And in this video, she talks about how she's now concerned about the microplastics and how they can block hormones. and the endocrines and all that kind of stuff. And then she literally says, quote here, she has to get her diet first, then her products, in regards to, basically the research that she has to do. Like I said, she doesn't want to jump into it. And she talks about basically this new era I'm in. And she says, quote, the goal with everything is to only use the top tier products and streamline my process, not promoting overconsumption.
Again.
And I'm like, Mama, the video's called 100+ foundations.
Jonat's really...
I'll buy them all and have them all. So you guys only buy one of these.
Can I just also say something?
Even though I make a video every week.
Do you see
selling new shit?
The true irony in all of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you see...
There's like 7 stages of irony going on.
Can we see how literally overconsumption is like the defining characteristic of most of Tati's life? Like like not as like a actual thing she's doing, but like the fear of and the anxiety about overconsumption has just changed. It's changed. Like at one point it was about food. At one point it was about her like spirituality and God and like the kinds of things that she was absorbing in LA.
Yep.
At one point it
was about the fame and the people. The fame and the people,
which James, James you just get so caught up in it, right? Like you're so obsessed with being famous and being James Charles. And now it's about the oxalates, and now it's about the makeup and the like, oh, I promoted this like overconsumptive lifestyle. But guys, like it's really not about what you own. It's about how you feel on the inside.
And it's just like the way that she really is like, oh, I have to get my diet first, and then I'll look into it. And I was like, oh God, like terrifying. Like, oh my God, this is what we have coming up in the future. It's soon going to be all about the plastic-free makeup and the clean mascara and the formula, whatever. And it's just going to be another thing that she can start selling at Rising.
And we started this entire series, this 2-parter, with me making a pretty bold declaration that you refuse to stand in the truth of, that oftentimes, and again, I'm bringing it back to feminism, women are the foot soldiers of the patriarchy.
Yes.
More often than not.
Yes.
And what I mean by that in this particular moment is if you really look at Tati's like entire arc on YouTube, it has actually been so much about peddling like regressive, misogynistic, gender essentialist bullshit through like whatever was the fad movement of the time, like whether it's beauty, politics, like spirituality, mental health, etc. Like she ultimately is like, oh guys, like I'm just trying to like empower women. I'm just trying to like make women
and read the comment
feel better.
section.
But
that's all it's about.
That's all it's about.
So great having a fellow woman confirm these anxieties.
I'm saying, like, also in this
tell me
moment,
their story and be vulnerable.
You scratch a little bit at her philosophy, right? Which we don't have to do very hard to reach the center because it's pretty shallow, right? It's spray painted gold. It's not even gold fill. Like she like
gold colored paint.
Yeah. She like is promoting through this veneer of like feeling better. Like what does feeling better mean to her? It means spending all day at home praying to God. It means staying with your husband even if you hate him. Even though you were getting a divorce and you were miserable and you had splitting up, you need to work it out because marriage is synced. Is
the sanctity of marriage. God, I'm not
her
shocked.
Ultimate happiness is being on a farm with an apron, churning butter and making pies for her husband. She needs to get out of LA. She needs to move to the suburbs. She's going to spend the rest of her life obsessing over having a child because the ultimate goal is to move to the suburbs, abandon the city life, abandon friends, abandon community.
We haven't even addressed
go
the
into
whole
the
fact
home.
that she's been trying to have a child for 10 years. And
we're not even going to talk about it because
the diet might help her
I
with
feel like
that.
that's almost too mean to talk about.
Absolutely too much. It is.
But what
I
I'm
just had to
saying is like,
it.
but like the way that gets packaged into like moving back to the suburbs.
Oh yeah,
in a gated community where it's safe.
This has been done like every 5 years in U.S. history culturally. It's always like the new generation has to figure out the city is terrible and it's full of heathens and woke mobs, and now we have to do the white
that's
flight
what I'm
to
saying.
the suburbs.
Like again, like
it's like
her
we've been here before.
Politics are ultimately regressive and misogynistic.
Yeah.
And that like regressive misogyny and I'm sorry to say self-hatred has just manifested in basically every single facet of her life. And like it's almost shocking to see someone come completely undone like this, right? Like you could probably go back and watch her videos from like 2015, 2016, which is when I was most aware of her because I watched her videos, right? Like beauty gurus were just like something we had on at the time. I think it was something that like if you're like a woman or like someone who's like a self-described older Gen Z or like millennial, you probably had Tati's videos on, or like Jackie Aina or something.
Yeah.
And you're not even doing makeup like that. It was just something we all
just
had
vlogging
on.
kind of
But
stuff.
I'm saying, I wonder if I went back to those videos, like at her peak,
if you could like see,
if we could see this, because I always felt like there was something about her where, you know, I never dug too deep into it, but I think there was a moment where there was that veneer of normalcy, right? Like she could have probably gotten away with it if the Bi Sister stuff hadn't completely unraveled
alternate
her.
timeline theories.
But I'm saying,
honestly,
but I'm
like,
saying, like,
what would that have
imagine,
been?
like,
yeah.
because like it almost seems like in the time since Bi Sister, she's just become completely undone as a human being, right? Like all of these like completely regressive things have just been, she's been unable to keep it to herself, right? Like it's just spilling out of her. The crystals, the ghosts, the demons that like
I'm sorry
cause
about that. She put cameras in her
dissociation.
house to find what's going on with those crystals. Release the footage. You did not find anything on those cameras, did you? I need to know.
You know why she didn't release the footage? Because the demons. Because it's not Christian. Her pastor told her. Her pastor told her not to. And if Tati, you come out and you tell me that your pastor did not tell you to not release that footage, I will literally send you a box of shit. Like, there's actually no option in which you get a good outcome. I'm not paying her any money or donating any kind of money. I'm just saying, like, you could tell me I'm lying or that I'm true, and you're still getting a box of shit on your door. A spiritual shit. I'm actually sending the ghosts in my own crystals. It's actually like in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's like a stand, or like in shonen anime, you know, you have your like battle partner.
Of course,
like,
yeah.
I'm sending my own ghosts to go attack her ghosts. That's ultimately what eating for free is. Psychic warfare on a mass scale.
Oh, absolutely. What else is there?
Do you have any closing thoughts about Tati that you want to leave the girls with?
I do, but I'll be quick about it because I don't want to diagnose her or tell her that what she's feeling is not real. But I feel like one thing about the carnivore diet that I think is really exploitative, and what I think gives it success and what allows a lot of people to fall for it. I'm not saying this is why Tati is involved in it, but one thing I can definitely say and think about it, and this is someone who has tried to lose weight before and has gone back and forth on other diets as well, in a sense, or diets, lifestyle choices, whatever you want to call them. For someone who is described as depriving themselves of protein and fatty foods and junk food and foods that we deem in our society pleasurable, but a guilty pleasure. She said a lot of things about fast food and how morally wrong it is and how it's a heathenist kind of thing. So we know that she believes this as well. She chose to eat a diet of stuff that did not taste as well, required a lot of work and a lot of knowledge to experience. And I think it's just very convenient. The carnivore diet, it allows people to basically, I don't want to say like gorge themselves or have like no limits. I think there's a lot of people who probably still put limits on them and how they use it, but you're allowed to eat very rich, high caloric food. And that is something that when you have been limiting yourself, the whole point about why diets don't work is that people constantly have cravings that they can't, satisfy.
Yeah, and also
to be given the pass to now
idea
eat
that
whatever
diets
you want
work is based on like basically perpetual suffering, that you're perpetually going to be depriving yourself.
A lot of diets are focused on you
perpetual
need to
deprivation
suffer
for the rest of your life.
And a lot of people say you need to learn to like what this is, and soon you will not like those foods. And that's why she's got the headache and felt disgusting eating a burger. And now it's the opposite. Now the vegetables hurt her. And I think it's just like, I think it cannot be ignored that the diet allows a lot of people who are suffering in their diets to feel, I think, a sense of satisfaction and happiness because they're finally allowed to eat a considerable amount of food. And again, she's gaining weight. It's like, I don't want to judge what her journey is and not everyone else's, isn't it? But personally, for me, I see even the fantasy of it. I was somewhat not convinced, but I could see the appeal when she's talking about it. I was like, wow, that sounds great to finally be able to just eat a bunch of meat or other high fatty foods and think, oh, that's good for me.
I can think is I'd literally just be shitting and farting beer constantly.
And it's funny because we just had conversations where you're realizing you genuinely just do not like meat. Like, it's just the flavor. It's just not something you enjoy.
Which is
but it comes
weird.
from more, I think, for you at least, from what you've told me, just personal preference and taste. It's not
and
a deep philosophical.
I mean, I get sad thinking about
dietitian based way,
the nature of meat as like a grown food, but you can't also like think too hard about that because no, you should think too hard about that. But I'm saying when you focus on like, oh, the animals and like this mass slaughter makes me sad.
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
Okay, well, you're gonna eat vegetables and like, you know, beans and like healthy like green foods rather than meats or whatever, which is not what I'm doing. I'm just using that as a broad example.
Yeah. It's a very common one now.
It's also interesting how, you know, by just like fixating on animals and like switching the diet, so to speak, you're ignoring the very real human suffering that goes into the production of all foods, especially
the entire
vegetables
food system,
and fruits
honestly.
in this country,
Yes.
like and starches and whatnot, like
slave labor and horrible
exactly. So I'm not saying that like one is better or worse than the other, but like you know, I'm also just realizing that like I just don't eat meat that much anymore. It's not something that I crave, you know, like there's things that I crave and we know what the things are because you and I honey,
there are other priorities.
You and I have made acquaintances with every joint in this town, okay? Like but I'm just saying it's just
I love my seed oils, mama, because I love fried food. Let me tell you, I don't care if it'll kill me.
You could fucking take that freaking fried pot sticker out of my cold dead hands. I want to be buried with that shit, okay? Like
no, literally
bury me with the mozzarella
you could eat a
sticks.
full meal, or you could just eat 3 orders of crab rangoon, and we know where I stand on that situation.
Ugh.
You're like, that's fucking disgusting.
You know what? I felt so violated the other day. Just to end the episode, I did just want to say this to you. I ordered from your favorite Chinese food place after we recorded last week.
Oh, what?
And can I tell you,
disgusting.
It was fine. I ordered like a veggie noodle and like rice combo.
Yeah.
And I'm eating the veggie, right? And there is a single, like, it's not raw, but like, you know how sometimes shrimp can just like look raw? Like there was a single
piece of shrimp in the veggie
a
thing?
single whole shrimp like in the middle of the food.
Oh, mama,
and
that's
I
not
was
good.
like, this was Matt's doing. Like,
yeah, because you hate crustacean. That like,
were
you able to eat around it or get it out, or were you like, I can't even eat this anymore?
No, I ate it. I mean, I wasn't gonna throw the food away. It was perfectly fine. But I just was like, I got like halfway to my mouth, and I was
it's
like,
me, my little shrimp.
I was like, of course I take Matt's like one food recommendation for like where to order from, and it's a fucking shrimp in my food. Anyways,
my impact. Absolutely.
Don't tell Tati though. I don't know if crustaceans count as meat in the Episcopalian paleontology hierarchy of like animal evolution, since she probably doesn't believe in evolution anymore. Thank you all so much, by the way, everyone, for listening to Eating for Free. We are not a food podcast. Except for today. It's almost funny how finally the name of this podcast is very literal, like for the only time it will ever be very literal.
Eating that 128-ounce porterhouse steak for free.
Yeah,
mama.
we have gotten so many nice comments and so many like genuinely nice messages about the last couple months of stuff that we've been putting out and like longer form content. So we are thinking that if we are not doing like a singular topic, the new format going forward is either going to be something like this, where we spend an episode just really digging in on a contemporary news item that we just feel like we want to expand on for like an episode. And sometimes that might mean the episode we did a few weeks ago where we talked about Don't Worry Darling and the Constance Wu stuff.
Yeah.
Like things that are like stories that we can kind of coalesce into a broader discussion about something that we're interested in or we care about. It's something that you guys seem very receptive to, so we do want to start buckling down on that. So look forward to more stuff like this. I mean, we are going to try to basically make this the ongoing format of our show, but leftovers and hot topics are not going away. You can get the hot topics and leftovers in our after show, which is exclusively on Patreon. Sometimes it will be leftovers in the literal sense of like all the like fun news items that we didn't get to, or sometimes it'll just be clippings from the main episode that we didn't have time to include but are still fun things we want to talk about. Like today we're catching up on James Charles for leftovers, so we highly suggest everyone go listen to that. We will be diving deep into James's Instagram. It's gonna be
like cave diving.
Us watching James watch the Mona Lisa, watching James watching us. like I said, Plato's Cave. For more information about us, you can go to eatingforfree.com, go to our Twitter, twitter.com/_eatingforfree, or @_eatingforfree, excuse me. I'm everywhere at Laura Croft Barbie. That's everywhere at _Matthew Lawson. You can go to our Patreon, which is, the best way to support us, patreon.com/eatingforfree. Or if you want to email us just anything, we love getting your emails. Email us at eatingforfreepodcast@gmail.com. It is the #1 way to reach us, and we highly suggest you let us know what you feel about Tati. I really want to know, if you were a longtime fan of Tati, how does all of this make you feel?
Please let us know. I'm actually
how does this square up with your own understanding of Tati? And we won't get to it in the next episode, but we will probably get into it in the next Hot Topics episode on Patreon. So we might read your listener letters there. You never know where that might show up. So in general, we would love to hear from you guys. We are planning to do another Patreon exclusive listeners letter. So send us your stuff. You can send it on Patreon even. It really doesn't matter. Just get in contact with us.
All right. It's time.
It's time. 3, 2, 1. Sucking dick and cock.
I knew it.
And you did it on my birthday.
Oh, it was on her birthday.
Goodbye.
Come on, if you know the words, let's go.
What do I think of her?
Yes.
I don't think of her.
Bitch. Glass of red wine and a swisher. I think you get the picture. Bitch.
Here I go. Oh,